thank you very much, everyone. I want to thank the incredible workers who build these beautiful homes. They are the backbone of our country, and it would be nice if the people who built our homes could afford to live in those homes again, like they could before the 9 years of the Carney, Freeland, Trudeau Liberal government. I want to thank the great Jesse Sahota, who is a police officer that has been keeping our community safe, a wrestling coach who is a great mentor to the youth, and a master in jiu-jitsu and other martial arts. But I assure you, he is a gentle giant. So thank you very much, Jesse, for being the future member of Parliament for Delta. You ever wonder why we can't have nice things in Canada anymore? Like healthcare, or affordable food, or homes, the stuff we used to take for granted as Canadians? You ever wonder why that is? After 9 years of Trudeau, Freeland, and Carney being in power. You know, in 2020, Carney started advising Trudeau on economics, right when Freeland became the finance minister. And what has been the result of this pact? Well, Canada's per capita GDP, income per person, has dropped more than any other country in that time period. Since 2020, our GDP per capita has dropped more than any other G7 country. That means lower wages and less purchasing power. We've seen $500 billion of Canadian investment pour into the United States to build pipelines, mines, factories, homes, and other infrastructure, creating American jobs with Canadian investment dollars. What has this meant in human terms? 2 million people lined up at food banks. A quarter of our population is now living in poverty. Stats Canada says that we now have the biggest gap between rich and poor since Stats Canada began recording that stat point in 1999. Our money is pouring out of Canada after Liberals, Carney, Trudeau, and Freeland blocked major resource projects, raised taxes on work, energy, and saving, and after they ran up huge deficits with massive overspending. That is the record of Carney and Freeland. Now they have a carbon tax that's 17 cents a liter. Carbon tax Carney has said the tax is not high enough and that it is rising too slowly for him. He wants it to rise even more. Chrystia Freeland has passed into law an increase to 61 cents a liter over the next 5 years. These lying Liberals will deny that right before the election to try and trick Canadians into letting them back in to raise taxes all over again. And then there's the jobs tax. In the budget of last year, Chrystia Freeland announced a capital gains tax hike. Now 66% of investment gains will be taxed under the Carney, Trudeau, Freeland Liberals. This is a tax on home builders when we have a housing shortage, a tax on doctors when we have a doctor shortage. It is a tax on small business when we have an economic crisis. It's a tax on farmers when we have a food price crisis. And it will send billions of dollars away. According to C.D. Howe, this tax will cost 400,000 jobs. How many of those jobs are represented here? Which one of these workers is going to lose their jobs because of this tax increase? How are they going to pay their bills when this Liberal tax increase is fully implemented? Well, the good news is common sense Conservatives are announcing today that under a Pierre Poilievre-led government, I will axe the Liberal jobs tax and reverse the capital gains hike that Chrystia Freeland announced last spring. We will bring down taxes. In fact, I will bring in, it's going to be called the Bring It Home tax cut. It will reduce taxes on work, investment, making stuff, building homes, and energy so that we can bring home more powerful paychecks and production to Canada. And now more than ever, we need it. President Trump has said he wants to tariff our country. We cannot afford economically destructive liberal taxes that will drive even more business and jobs out of our country. We need to stand strong. My message to President Trump is this: Canada will never be the 51st state, and not only that, the free ride is over. The era of liberal tax increases and anti-development policies that have driven $500 billion of our money south of the border is over. I will be cutting taxes, removing red tape, and unleashing free enterprise to bring home hundreds of billions of dollars of production and paychecks to this country. We will be a fierce free enterprise economy that delivers powerful paychecks to our people, that will allow anyone from anywhere to achieve anything, that guarantees that hard work gets you a powerful paycheck that buys affordable food and homes in safe neighborhoods. That is how we bring it home for Canada. That is how we put Canada first. Canada first, Canada last, Canada always. Let's bring it home.
Thank you. We'll now take questions from the floor.
Hello, my name's Yvette Brand. I'm from CBC. Could I ask that you also answer in French for my colleagues who...
Yes, of course.
Thank you very much.
Oui, merci.
Yeah. You could be Prime Minister within a few months in this country. Would you be willing to impose export tax or restrictions on Canadian oil? Because you'll be dealing with Trump's threats of tariffs. This would put pressure on the Trump administration. Or is this off the table for you as it is for Danielle Smith in Alberta?
Well, first of all, I think that the first thing that President Trump should do when he gets into the Oval Office is to send a big bouquet of flowers to the Liberal government in Ottawa. By blocking pipelines and LNG plants in Canada, the Liberals have forced Canadians to sell almost all of our energy to the United States, giving President Trump massive leverage in making these tariff threats. Had they allowed the Energy East and Northern Gateway pipelines to go ahead, had they rapidly approved LNG plants to sell the natural gas that Japan, Greece, Germany, and other countries were looking for us to sell them directly, we wouldn't have to give 100%, almost 100%, of our hydrocarbons to the Americans at discount prices, and you wouldn't have had to ask me that question. Because I would have answered, in that scenario, I would have answered, we'll go around the Americans. We'll sell our energy directly. But that's something that the Liberals would not let us do. Freeland supported killing the Energy East pipeline, which would have moved 1 million barrels of Western oil to the St. John refinery and off to Europe, by the way, which would have helped defund Putin. Carney testified in the industry committee that he was against the Northern Gateway pipeline to take Canadian oil to Asia without going through the United States. By the way, while his company buys pipelines in the Middle East and in Brazil. How unpatriotic is that? So, frankly, the Liberals have got us in this mess by making us beholden to the Americans and giving them, the Americans, our energy at massive price discounts, selling our oil for $15 typically below the market rate, and selling them natural gas for $4 per million metric British thermal units when they're going for $13 in Europe. That is economic sadomasochism, and I will put an end to it. When I'm Prime Minister, we will repeal the anti-energy law C-69. We will rapidly approve LNG plants and any other private sector unsubsidized investments to expand our ability to sell our energy without going through the Americans. And I will unite our people. We see right now that not only have the Liberals weakened our economy, now they're resorting to dividing our people. Divide and conquer. Right when the president is threatening us with tariffs, what is the first thing the Liberal Party of Freeland and Carney think to do? Divide Canadians. Divide our provinces. We don't need to be divided. We need to be united. All provinces, all Canadians. Let's put Canada first. Thank you.
En français.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. La première chose que le président Trump devrait faire en devenant président des États-Unis, c'est d'envoyer des fleurs aux libéraux du Canada. Parce que les libéraux ont donné un énorme cadeau au président Trump en empêchant la construction des oléoducs et les usines de gaz naturel qui auraient permis le Canada de vendre ses produits énergétiques directement aux autres pays outre-mer. Et à cause de ça, nous avons besoin de donner notre énergie aux Américains au prix très bas, bien en bas du prix du marché. Maintenant, nous donnons notre gaz naturel pour 4 $ aux Américains lorsque c'est 13 $ en Europe. Mais on ne peut pas vendre notre gaz en Europe parce que les libéraux ont bloqué, par exemple, GNL Québec, qui aurait permis aux Canadiens de vendre notre énergie directement en Europe pour définancer Vladimir Poutine en contournant les États-Unis. Et maintenant, on dépend sur les Américains à cause des libéraux et la gauche radicale qui veut rien savoir de développement économique. Moi, je vais permettre la construction d'usines de gaz naturel, des gazoducs, des oléoducs, des autres projets sans subvention de l'État pour pouvoir exporter notre énergie à travers le monde. Je vais aussi unir notre pays. Je sais que les libéraux veulent gagner des élections en divisant les Canadiens d'une province à l'autre. Le président Trump va beaucoup aimer cette approche parce que ça lui donne plus de rapport de force. Moi, je ne veux pas diviser les Canadiens ni les provinces. Je vais unir tous les Canadiens pour faire face aux menaces injustifiées du président Trump. C'est comme ça que nous allons mettre le Canada d'abord. Merci.
Thank you. Next question.
Good morning, Andrea McPherson, Global News. Your reaction to Daniel Smith's refusal to sign that joint agreement on the tariff retaliation plan by the premiers and the impact you think that will have on Canada's battle against the tariffs?
Yes, I mean, like I said, I think the first thing President Trump will do when he takes office is to send a bouquet of flowers to the Liberals of Freeland, Carney, and Trudeau, who have weakened and divided our country and given him the upper hand. The Liberals have forced Canadians to sell 100% of our oil and gas to the Americans at discount prices, which has put us in this position of weakness. It'd be nice if we had pipelines and export terminals that could take our energy to Asia and Europe without going through the United States. But of course, the economic radicals of Trudeau, Freeland, and Carney blocked those projects because of their radical ideology, and they have made us more and more dependent on President Trump. And my approach will be exactly the opposite. I will quickly approve energy projects to send our energy to the rest of the world without relying on Americans, and we will make our country more self-reliant and independent. I will also unite our country. The Liberals are trying to divide one province against another, Canadian against Canadian, right at our moment of maximum vulnerability. This is because we do not have a functional federal government. So we have effectively 10 different foreign affairs ministers, one from each province, trying to fight separately. If we had a carbon tax election now, we could elect a strong, stable, national majority government that would stand up for all Canadians, all industries, in all provinces, and that's what we need to do.
En français.
Merci beaucoup. Comme j'ai dit, les libéraux ont affaibli le Canada en bloquant les projets de l'infrastructure énergétique qui a forcé les Canadiens de vendre notre énergie aux Américains au prix très, très bas, en bas du prix du marché. Et maintenant, nous sommes dans une position très vulnérable. Mais en plus, les libéraux veulent gagner des élections en divisant les provinces et les Canadiens l'un contre l'autre au moment de maximum vulnérabilité. Encore, le président Trump va voir la faiblesse que les libéraux ont imposée sur le Canada. C'est assez. Maintenant, nous avons besoin d'un nouveau gouvernement, de gros bon sens qui va unir les Canadiens, qui est assez fort pour faire face au président Trump, qui va ramener la production ici au Canada et qui va défendre tous les Canadiens. Le Canada d'abord, le Canada avant tout.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi, Monica Gould with City News. Barring any last-minute changes, TikTok is set to be banned in the U.S. this weekend. I'm curious what your thoughts are on a ban, and if you were to form government, if that is something you would pursue because of the national security concerns.
It's a good question. I've already ordered all of our conservative MPs, senators, and our staff to stay away from TikTok altogether, stop using it because it risks infiltration and espionage and manipulation by the hostile regime in Beijing. I'll be following the decision in the United States very carefully. I don't have anything to announce right now, but it's a very good question and we'll be following it. Thank you.
En français.
Merci beaucoup, madame. C'est une bonne question. J'ai déjà banni tous les membres de notre parti au Parlement, au Sénat, nos adjoints d'utiliser le TikTok dans leur travail. Nous allons suivre la décision des Américains avec beaucoup d'intérêt. Il faut protéger les Canadiens contre l'espionnage et l'ingérence étrangère qui a grandi énormément après 9 ans des libéraux et on va défendre notre pays dans la meilleure façon.
Thank you. This will be the final question.
Thank you, Brenna Owen, Canadian Press. So just to clarify, do you support including oil and gas in any retaliatory tariffs?
We don't import almost any oil and gas from the Americans, at least raw oil and gas. We mostly export it. So I'm not sure I understand your question when you say tariffs on American oil and gas. We don't import very much. Unfortunately, what we do is we send them our raw materials. They send it back refined. We don't have the value-added jobs in Canada, and that's because our very high taxes and heavy red tape have made it impossible for us to expand our industrial base and to make ourselves more self-reliant. But what I will do is axe the Liberal jobs tax, and I should mention, I forgot to mention this in my remarks, I will also be slashing corporate welfare. That's the subsidies and the handouts we give to big businesses so that we can use those savings to make sure that getting rid of this tax hike does not add to our deficit. I've committed to a dollar for dollar principle. Every time I spend a dollar or lose a dollar in tax revenues, I will find the savings so that we reduce the deficit. Et je vais répéter ça en français. Je vais couper la BS corporatif. Je vais couper le BS corporatif pour réduire le coût pour les contribuables et assurer que renverser la taxe sur les gains en capital n'ajoute pas au déficit. C'est responsable. Donc, c'est ça l'approche que je vais prendre. Donc, merci beaucoup. Thank you, everyone.